What's going on, guys? JDM Ricist here for another video. Now, I know it's been quite a while. Last Corvette I had was the C5 Z06 2003. This is a 2002 base model, but it has all the features: the heads-up display, the magnetic ride control. We got it for around 40,000 miles, which was a lot less miles than Z06, that's for sure. But let's get on to what we're going to do today, which is under this hood. And we are going to be turning your stock airbox into a cold air, even slightly ram air intake. Basically, what we're going to do is turn this snorkel and box upside down, cut a hole in this plastic part. That way, the air will go straight from underneath, straight into the ram, straight into your engine. It'll give you much cooler air, and even some have said a ram air intake effect at higher speeds. So this is extremely easy and fairly quick to do. To remove this part as a unit, first you want to undo this little hose right here. We may or may not have to unplug it, and we do definitely have to pop this off on both ends. Here is the list of parts and tools that you will need. Starting on the left, you'll definitely want to clean out that mass airflow sensor since you'll have everything taken apart. Might as well do it. The hose adapter, it's for the airbox hose. That's right there. It is 3/4 inch. We got the drill bit to install. It's a 1/4 inch drill bit, 6.4 millimeters, and that is to install the threaded inserts that we're going to be putting in the airbox to help hold the airbox in place. Here's the screws for it, M5, 12 millimeter. I don't think it's going to be too important for the length of it, but we'll see. Zip ties, of course, this is where the name of the mod gets, the zip tie mod. And a drill to drill the holes in the airbox to install the threaded inserts using the drill bit, and the Dremel. That's what we're going to use to cut the hole through that plastic part so the intake can breathe. We will want to start by loosening that snorkel clamp right here. These little anchors pull straight up, that way the snorkel comes straight out on both sides. There's a little wire anchor that's in here somewhere. You just pull that straight out. You'll want to disconnect this clip. This pulls straight out. You got to push on that middle part there and it pulls out. That's the part you want to push down on where the tip of my finger is. We'll want to undo this hose right here, and that should be about it. And presto, it is gonzo. Now I'm definitely going to clean up the area. And I mean, look at how restrictive this is. Look at how restrictive that is. All the air goes straight into the radiator and it's completely blocked off. The airbox itself, that's the only opening. That's incredible. That is insanely restrictive. I would be extremely surprised if I don't notice at least some noticeable gains by doing this mod. And I'll show you the end results and you'll definitely see why. Just undo these little clamps. Take the airbox out. Won't be needing this anymore. We'll put our new filter on here, and this top part is the part we're going to reverse. Just this top part, we're gonna loosen that. And the snorkel will stay flat, straight like that. But this top part, we're gonna rotate 180 degrees. So that way the opening where the filter is will be right there where we're gonna cut that little square out. here is the air filter I'll be using, K&N high flow air filter. Here's the part number if you need it, 33-2111. Here's what was in the box, the air filter itself, and it came with some pretty cool stuff. Came with a little instructions on how to put this little gasket thing on, and my other one, when I got it for the Z06, didn't have this gasket, so that's pretty cool. And of course the most important part, it came with that sticker. I think that's where you're going to notice most of your gains coming from. If yours didn't come with a sticker, you could always order them online. Alright, so we disconnected the snorkel from this air box right here after the mass airflow sensor. This is the part that we're going to rotate 180 degrees. But first we want to go ahead and clean the mass airflow sensor. It's always a good idea since it's taken apart. So the important part are these 3 vertical wires, very tiny delicate wires, so be very careful with it. Right where the tip of the red nozzle is, right here. 1, 2 on the right side, and 3, one on the left side. Now you'll see a honeycomb there. I'm going to clean that too. It's hard to see, the camera's in the light. So you could see that honeycomb, that's to help direct airflow, so I would not remove that. Some people say to remove it for even less restriction, but you'll honestly be doing more harm than good. So keep that in, just clean it up nicely, and should be good. Now here we have the outside piece to the part that holds the filter into the air box. So I already drilled one hole here. Now I just have to drill another hole on the opposite side over there, and one more in the middle. And then I'll get into how you install those easy lock thread inserts. It's super easy. Here are one of those brass threaded inserts that I showed you. It is an easy lock system, so all you gotta do, well, first you could see those slits on each side. What they're there for is so you could crimp the 2 sides together. That way you can stick it in the hole with the crimped slotted sides down into the hole. Then once it's in, you just gotta screw a screw inside of it, and it pushes those edges out and secures the threaded insert in place. And I'm also gonna put a little bit of super glue around the outside just for extra stickiness. So as you can see, I stuck my threaded inserts in the holes. Now one thing I do want to mention that I don't like about the threaded inserts that I got is it has that knurled texture. As you can see, it's got that knurled texture all the way to the bottom, but not all the way to the top, and I don't like that because I want it to sit flush. And that knurled texture, after you put the screw in to secure it in place, it would have to stay like that if I wanted it to stick on. So my solution is, I want it flush like this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it flush, then stick the screw in to secure it mostly, but then it could still slip those little couple millimeters where the knurled texture isn't. So I'm going to put some super glue around the outside to hold it in place. Oh, by the way, this is a sunglasses case that I wanted to practice on. That way, if I mess up on this, I'll know what I'm doing wrong and do it right here before doing it on the real deal here, so I don't mess up my intake piece. Now would be a good time to install that gasket that came with the K&N air filter. Just take off the backing so the double-sided adhesive could stick onto the groove that's around this outside edge as per instructions. So I finished putting a little bit of glue on the front of the inserts and the back, just to make sure they don't pull out or anything, because I don't know how good these easy lock ones are. It's my first time trying them. And this is where I start to get a little excited, because this means we're pretty much almost done. Get a big cardboard for a template. Trace the very inside all the way around and underneath this part because it's got to stop right here. Then cut it out. Then we cut the square and that plastic part by the radiator. Drill those little holes for the screws to go into these, and then we're pretty much done. Just put it back together. This is where we get into the zip tie part of the zip tie mod. Just strap 3 zip ties together. Well, the amount you strap together depends on how long the zip ties themselves are. These are about almost a foot long each, and I use 3 together. And you want to strap them together in these grooves right here, all the way around, and clamp them as tight as you could get them. Make sure it doesn't wiggle around. Now what I'm doing here is carefully tracing the outline of the bottom part of what holds the intake together. Just carefully tracing the outline all the way around. And you definitely want to make sure you be very careful with the type of cardboard you use. Make sure it's really thin, because when you trace it onto the actual panel that we're going to cut, you want to make sure it's got a clean edge so you could well, trace, because this is going to be your template. I also put some, once I got it lined how I wanted it, I put some tape on there so this won't move from the cardboard. This side, I just made sure I lined up perfectly. But a lot of people trace and cut things out different ways. This is just how I did it. And here we are. This is our final results of our template. And I did make sure to cut on the outside of my line because remember, you could always cut more, but you can't cut less. So just make sure after you trace your line, cut on the outside of that line because you could always sand it down, or after you trace it onto the panel we're gonna cut, you could sand that down. Alright, our first test fit. So this is how it's going to go. We have it snug over here, like we're gonna bolt it in for the final time. And now we know exactly where the back part is gonna set. So I'm gonna make a line on the back part so that way we could line up the template so where we could cut out that rectangular hole. And oh yeah, we flipped this side, of course, like I mentioned earlier, 180 degrees, so the front part is now down. Let's go ahead and start drawing that line and writing on the template. And writing. Now let's start drawing that line and putting the template on and tracing the rest out. I set my template down right where the back edges of where I traced on the actual piece right here on those 2 lines that I made. And I traced all the way around, kept it steady with some tape. So now I have my template for cutting the hole. Oh man, I just realized the bottom part didn't mark up correctly. Okay, time to match it back up, trace again. Alright, that is a much better traceable line, messed up in some areas, but I always kept coming back to the actual template to finish through, to follow through. Now the fun part, start cutting it up. This is the scary part too, but just remember, you could always cut more, but you can't cut less. So don't cut all the way out to the lines that you made. You could always sand it and cut a little bit more. For the holes on the template, I stuck on these these little plastic toothpick things, and I lined it up to the tip, like crosshairs kind of, where I'm gonna drill the holes. I'm gonna put that down on here and make some dots for the holes. All right, now we have our hole. Cut really close to the line, but not on it or over it. And of course I did finish up a little bit with a grind wheel to sharpen it up a little bit, as well as some sandpaper. So that's definitely good to go. Time to test fit. All right, after a whole bunch of sanding, I finally got it to sit perfectly inside. That's how it should sit. Oh, it's hard to get an angle on this. And then go all the way over here. On this side too. Can't even see any light. Can't see any light from the bottom. I have a flashlight down there too, so that's like perfect. Okay. So that's how the hole should be. As tight fitting as possible. It took me 2 hours of sanding, making sure I got it perfectly flush, with the bottom half seeped in a little bit. And now I just got to drill the holes for the top part. Alright boys, that's it. And now we are done. Last step is to hook up that black hose. I got it hooked up right there. Hooked up to the stock one. Goes down under here. And back over here. Looks good. The bottom of the intake is fastened through that rectangular hole that we cut. Just perfect. And we just gotta tighten this on right here and we are done. Wow, it was a fun project, guys. I'd be very surprised if I don't gain at least 5 horsepower on the highway with all that air going straight up into the intake now. I'll be posting more videos. Oh, one more thing I did is I put this little, I call it a gasket. Well, that's what it said on Amazon. It was the hood, front hood gasket. But it's just a sealer. Helps seal the hood on in place. And for this vet, I'm keeping it stock. I'm going to be showing other stock mods, like hooking up one of those powered subwoofers to your stock audio system. And a lot of other cool stuff, like buffing out this garbage. I'll show you how to buff stuff like that out too. Alright, here's the finished results from the underside. As you could see, it is in there snug. Snug all the way around, as you can see. And we got the screws into the inserts. It's snug all the way from the other side, as I think I showed you in the previous clip. One thing I did want to point out is I got thicker zip ties just because it fits the grooves a little bit better. Found them on Amazon. I'll post that in the description on where to get those. And you only need one to wrap around the whole airbox. Another upgrade from the tools that I showed you I was going to use earlier is this 3/4 inch silicone hose. And I got that on Amazon too. I'll post the link on the description. I have it joined up right here. Sorry, it's kind of hard to see. I don't have my light. There we go. Got it joined up right there. And the other end is going to go right into there. Just a side note, it fits so snug that I did have to cut some ridges for the zip ties. Top and bottom. When I put the front face down, I just marked where the zip ties were and cut about 2 or 3 millimeters. Should be good. That's it for the bottom. I screwed those screws into the inserts that is on the intake box. They went in super smooth, super clean, super flat. And of course, you cannot argue how snug it is. That is so snug. And of course I cut the notches for the zip ties. This one was a little sloppy, that's all right. Look how snug it is everywhere, all around it. And that's how you want it to be. It takes a lot of sanding and a lot of patience, but if you got the patience, you could do it. Oh, it's gonna be so much more air. And here's the finished results from the top. As snug as can be. I have a light from the bottom and you can't see any light pass through at all. Again, the notches for the zip ties are up top right there. Could barely see a little light through on the side. Here is a better tube that I use than that heater hose that I showed in the original clip where all the supplies are, what all the supplies were. This is a silicone hose, so it's a lot more flexible and less heavy duty for this kind of application. And it just kind of runs down there, up to right there. And of course we plug the mass airflow sensor back in. Clipped the little clips on the snorkel. And put a little finishing touch, this little strip right here. Just helps seal the hood down a little bit better. But I'd say that's freaking fantastic. Time to test it out on the road, see how she goes. Oh, actually, final step is to make sure you have your mass airflow sensor plugged in. It's going to be on this side now. And plug in that little gray safety clip as well. One thing I did also want to mention is this is Spec Corvette legal. So if you're racing the Spec Corvette series, Section 4, Paragraph 3 does state that this is legal since it is all stock parts. It even mentions the zip tie mod as well. So definitely legal for Spec Corvette racers. Might give you a little edge over the competition. I did drive from Austin to San Antonio and back, a 300-mile trip, and it held up just fine. There's no signs of anything loosening up, and it's just as secure as it was when I first installed it. Another thing I might be doing is putting this on. It is actually something my dad made for me, which is really cool. He had this idea, is to put little mounts right here. And this will be, since we don't have a real grill, can't, not enough light to see, but this will mount under it, and may put a video out on that as well. Well, thanks for watching the video, guys. I will be posting, again, like I mentioned before, really cool, free, pretty much free, stock mods that you could do to your Corvette. Another one that I would like to show, I haven't seen this done before, but I do have a way to have the footwell lighting turn on separate from the overhead lighting. So that way when you're cruising at night and you just want to turn on the footwell lighting, you just flip this switch on. And if you still need the overhead lighting, you can turn it on manually here. But that'll do it for this video. Have fun, guys.